Hello everyone, welcome back to Just a Catholic. Today I'm here with Braden from the Catechumen. I've been
What
waiting to
is
get this
up?
guy on my channel for so long.
I've been waiting to get on
So
your
I am,
channel. What the heck, man?
yeah, it was like, we were supposed to do a collab during Seek, but it didn't work out. And then,
Yeah.
and then one day he was just like, dude, when are we gonna go collab? I was like,
Right.
whenever. Like,
Right. Yeah, whenever you want. What the heck? Just reach out to me.
yeah, whenever. So
Dude.
the day has finally come. Today we are going to be talking about the Infographic show. Now, if you're not familiar with the Infographic show, they are a like a history based YouTube channel where they make like these nice animations going over like different historical events and different like just stories throughout time to interest their audience. And they have like millions of subscribers. I think it's like 11 million or something like that. And so like there's a lot of people that watch their videos, and the sort of implication that they give in being a history channel is that they are presenting history to people in a way that like people don't really get much outside of like history textbooks in school. It's like after that, if you're interested in history, for most people, they might just watch a couple of YouTube videos here and there, and that's where they get their history from.
Yep.
So I think that for this channel, it's very important that they represent history the right way, and so that's why we have a problem because we found some issues with the way that they represent Catholicism. So we're going to get right into that.
We've
Yeah,
got
so wait, I guess to begin, we can sort of just like overview some of just the thumbnails and titles
right.
of their videos, just to get a sense of how it is that they're representing Catholicism. Because I've noticed that the infographic show, I did a little peeping around and looked at the religious videos that they post, and it seems that like far and above, they post mostly like Catholic stuff whenever they post anything that's going to be religious. And what I've noticed is that none of it is positive. It's all just negative press
Yeah.
for the Catholic Church. Um, so, like for instance,
Yeah, all of these
probably
are so
they're
bad.
yeah they're yeah
What the
they're all like really bad. Like I mean, just at the top, most scary ghost stories hidden by the Catholic Church, and it's a nun with devil horns.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, people can be possessed, but it's like the implication that they're giving here is that the nun is evil, and it's like there's already this like archetype in I think
Yeah.
popular culture where it's like they associate like demonic possession with like nuns and clergy. Like
Right.
whenever whenever they see a nun, they don't think of a pious person that's given away their life for Christ. What they
Yeah.
think of is somebody being possessed by the devil. And
Yeah,
it's
well
like
there's the
the
devil horns and fire eyes, but then this like zombie thing, and then like what the
they're just
heck? Like
feeding into it.
devil
And then like
horns.
yeah, and that one in
That's
particular, if you could
insane.
scroll back up to it, is really bad. The ugly truth about Mother Teresa, and it has devil horns on it. What she really did. Now it's like these people need to realize that like that video has 4.2 million views. The amount of impressions that it has is probably like over 100 million. Um, so it's like 100 million like some odd people saw that
Yeah.
on their Explorer page, and then it was immediately like, oh, I guess Mother Teresa wasn't a great person. I guess
Yeah,
she
even
was
if they
evil.
didn't watch the video.
Yeah, even if they
Yeah.
didn't watch the video, and then it's like just the implication that it gives is just so horrible. And then it's like, how much power does the Vatican have? And it's like Pope Francis with like red eyes, like he's a
Right.
demon or something.
Dude, that's insane. I've never connected those dots before, but what you say about it probably being shown to at least 100 million people makes so much sense because isn't the average like click per view or whatever like 5%? So this is like
Yeah,
5% of the people who like actually saw this
yeah.
thumbnail clicked on it. That's
4.2
insane.
million is 5% of the people that that video was shown to, and the rest of them saw that title, they saw that thumbnail, and they got the implication from it. And it's like, what we'll come to see is that in these videos, a lot of the time, they actually do demonstrate like a more nuanced vision of like the Catholic Church, but it's like, first of all they're covering is like scandal. They're not
Yeah.
covering anything good about the Catholic Church, how it's like the most charitable organization in the world, and how it's advanced science in like unprecedented ways in universities and education and literacy. No, they cover demonic possessions, which is
Yeah.
like it's okay to talk about.
Right.
Like we're not gonna act like that stuff hasn't happened. But it's like they're covering this bad stuff, and it's like nuanced topics, and they present it in this like horrifically clickbaity way,
Yeah.
which is like leading people to think that it's like, oh, I guess the Catholic Church is evil.
Yeah. And if that's the only thing that this, purportedly historical channel is presenting on the Catholic Church, then that's also going to leave an impression like everything that I see from this history channel is just bad when it talks about Catholicism. Like that's insane. And the most neutral, I'd say the most neutral thumbnail is the one at the very top where it's Catholic versus Orthodox. And like look at how like hey, their thumbnails look great, but like why do they look like that? That's just insane. This is like I
Like they
can't
hate
see
each
any
other.
thumbnail that's like positive. Yeah, like they just like hate
Yeah,
each
yeah.
other, and they're like, there's a vein popping on his forehead. Like what the heck is that?
Yeah,
It's
there's
weird.
nothing positive, and it's like this is like when all you're covering about a certain group of people is negative stuff, what happens is that regardless of whether people are intending to do this, just from passively absorbing the information about a topic that they're not super invested in, what they see is going to become their opinion of it. And
Mm,
so it's like if you have these like millions of people that they get their daily dose of history from Infographic show, and occasionally it's just a Catholic video. It's just this like horrible stuff. It's like, oh, I guess Catholics are bad then. I guess they're evil. And it's
right.
like this is the same kind of like just negative press about a certain group of people is how you get um people like treating African Americans poorly,
Mm,
Jews poorly. It's like that's where it comes from. And it's like especially, and I'm not saying the content of the videos like this, but like their thumbnails and their titles, it's like almost well, no, it is propaganda with the way that it is portraying them. Just popes and nuns with just like devil horns on them. It's like
right.
it is giving the implication, whether they realize it or not, that this is what Catholicism is.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, and I'm interested to see because you said you've watched a few of these before. I haven't seen. I don't think I've ever seen one of these videos, or at least not
Have you ever
recently.
seen? Have you ever
So
seen the? Have you ever gotten an impression of it?
I have seen. I think I've seen this one before,
Yeah.
and then maybe like the most evil pope before. Which, like, to be fair, Alexander the Sixth was not that very good of a pope. But like,
Yeah.
if you're only reporting on the negative things, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You
Why
you
don't
you hit it
you
right on.
report on JP2?
Yeah,
You know,
facts. Especially if you're like a
like
history channel. Like, I don't know. This
yeah.
isn't. I don't know, because we could look at their channel if they have like anything positive on anything, right? I mean, do they have like?
That's an interesting thing. I guess before we delve into it, why don't you look up infographic show like Judaism or Islam and see what comes up.
Okay, that's not infographic show. This is the infographic show, and this is just like some thing. Real problem with Israel's geography. Okay,
So okay.
how a disease saved many Jews from Nazis. What actually is God, but I'm not sure if that's like Judaism. The
It's probably
Holocaust
Islam.
death trains. Was Jesus actually resurrected?
Now that I will say that
Interesting.
was Jesus actually resurrected is actually a really fair and good video. I think that they're very charitable on that one.
Interesting. Insane plagues from the Bible that tortured Egypt. That could be both
It,
Jewish
yeah, that could
and
be.
Catholic.
Scroll down a little bit more. There's one that in particular that
What I didn't even see this one on the
yeah,
other
weirdest Bible
one.
stories the church tried to hide from you. Now, okay, what's really interesting about this one is they portray it as the church, and then whenever they're talking about it, they don't talk about the Tanakh, they talk about the Old Testament and
That's
weird
so
Bible
weird.
stories that the church tries to hide from you. So it is inherently from a Christian perspective. So in portraying it this way with this cultic looking thumbnail and saying that they're hiding it from you, it is
Yeah.
inherently slandering upon Christianity and attributing these stories of the sin of Israel to Christianity. But I bet you that they would be too scared to portray it as weird, weird scripture stories that the Jews tried to hide from you.
Right. Yeah, you don't see any
They
of
would be
that
too
from the Jews.
they would be too scared to do that. 100%.
Like, all of it's obviously like Holocaust stuff, Nazi concentration Holocaust, the man Jew. Oh, wait, that's not even infographic show. Why the Dark Ages were the worst time to be alive. Death camps. Yeah, all of it's like Holocaust stuff. No, none of it's like religious. Doesn't seem like.
Yeah, they don't want to, and then the one video where they're slandering Jewish tradition, they frame it as being Christianity.
Yeah, it's because it's the
Which
Old
is
Testament.
fair because it is Christianity, but that's also the safer option.
Right.
And then in
Here's
Islam,
some
they have the
modern
Taliban and
politics
ISIS.
stuff. Most brutal war in history. Those are the Crusaders. The rise and fall of the most radical group in the world. Apparently, you have to be like a specific terrorist group if they're gonna make a video about you and you're Islamic. Let's
Yeah,
see.
right. They can't just
Taliban and
cover the
Al-Qaeda.
the rise of Islam.
Yeah.
Like Islam is not just terrorists, but
So really, the only religion that they want to comment on explicitly is Catholicism.
yes, they will. It looks like they're only explicitly commenting upon the history and speaking in broad terms of the history of the Catholic Church. Why?
Yep.
Because it's easy to make fun of the Catholic Church.
Because the Catholic Church is the church established by Jesus Christ.
Yes,
That's
precisely.
why. That's why.
Precisely. Well, if you want to click on one of these videos, we can
Let's
get right
do
into it.
Okay, which one do you want to do? Or maybe I'll look up the church. Infographic show church. Or Catholic Church, maybe. That way all of them show up. There we go. We could do the most evil pope. Because, like, to be honest,
Yeah, I haven't watched that one.
there have been really bad popes in history, you know? But,
Yeah.
so that's to me, that's okay. But then it's like, the ones that are like Mother Teresa or like some of these other ones, it's like, it seems that their thumbnail isn't even like accurately portraying their, like what they're saying in the video.
Well, okay, so one that I was interested in, I watched like 30 seconds of it. Most Evil Nun. It's down there somewhere.
Oh, most evil nun. Here, I'll just look it up. Most evil
There we
nuns
go.
in the history of mankind. This one?
Sinful Nuns.
Oh, look.
There you go, and they're like demons. What is that
Sisters
one?
of No Mercy. Didn't even see that one.
The
either.
Sisters of Mercy show absolutely no mercy. Oh my goodness.
Interesting. Okay, which one do you want? This one?
Whichever.
All right,
Yeah,
let's
go
do
with
it.
that one.
Let me know if you can hear the audio. Oops.
The woman of God is
I can
Can
hear
you?
it.
Cool. Should
Yeah.
I full screen it like this?
Yeah, maybe turn it down a little bit.
I gotcha. All right. And sorry.
Get ready to pause for this first 30 seconds.
Okay.
Because there's some issues
the
already.
woman of God is violently seized by merciless hands, her wrists and ankles clamped in cold, unforgiving metal chains. Her terrified screams echo as she's dragged into the shadows. But as unbearable as her fear and pain are,
He can't hear
something
you.
far more sinister
Yeah.
That's
he can't hear
bad
you.
theology.
waits in the darkness.
That is
Her
bad
tormentors
theology.
aren't strangers. They are her sisters in faith, her fellow nuns. What force could twist a devoted sister into becoming a torturer?
is
We'll
this?
find that out. And
Yeah,
even
so, okay.
more disturbing.
What?
It is like, okay, listen.
God can't hear you. You're past.
Yeah,
Christ's mercy.
God can't hear you. You're past Christ's mercy.
That's
so
insane.
like, there have been bad clergy, bad nuns, bad Catholics, bad popes in the history of the church. However, these people are bad because they entertain their sins and their concupiscence that is in their mind, which is the inclination towards sin. Just because you're Catholic doesn't mean you're immune to sin. It is still a journey of following Christ and staying away from sin. But it's like, when they put comments like these, I think even the worst of nuns probably wouldn't at least outwardly say something like that, because
Right.
he can't hear you is 100% wrong. And this isn't even mentioning the fact that this is like portraying to these people, this is what Catholicism is. This is what these people
Right.
think.
I
like,
guarantee you, if we look at the comments, it's just like, oh, I always knew Catholicism was bad. These nuns went from
oh,
praying to praying.
look at the comics that Infographic show put. The top one.
The number of Catholic nuns globally dropped over 75%, driven by scandals and changing societal attitudes.
Okay.
Interesting.
And then their responses.
Oh, yeah. Here, let's see.
Well,
Because it's a miserable life.
well, there's another
Gosh.
comic down there that they responded to. There you go. These nuns
Amen.
went from
And
praying.
also, yikes.
Amen is insane. It's like they find this is like funny to them.
None of them were perfect. Sounds like a habit they couldn't break. Okay, they're like brutal.
They're like actually making fun of them,
Right.
and then putting stuff like you're beyond Christ's mercy, which is
Yeah.
like fundamentally opposed to the doctrine of Catholicism. That is like not Catholic at all. Which, I mean, you'll find Catholics that are just like led astray, that'll believe stuff like that, but it's just like this is like this is what they're portraying as Catholicism, and you can see it reflected in the comments, you know.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if any of them say anything about Catholicism specifically. I'm not even Catholic, and I'm shocked that nuns stoop so low. But the abuse of the Catholic Church around the world is so devastating. I went to Catholic school, and I also lived across the street from our church. I have known many good nuns, but there are so many that are just the cruelest people you could imagine. At least that was a little bit more neutral.
Yeah, right.
Corrupt Catholicism in Ireland. There's so much god-awful things that happened at the hands of the Catholic Church. Yeah, that's insane. Oops.
Oh no, they have 14.8 million subscribers.
Yeah, that's freaking crazy.
That is crazy.
All right.
Stories on this episode of the Infographic Show. The most evil nuns in the history of mankind. Number 10. The Gambling Nun of Cali.
Gambling
Being
nun.
a nun is a sacred duty,
I like
and
the
those
music.
who take the vow are
Yeah.
usually committed to a simple life of serving God. They manage the affairs of their order,
Okay,
they eat
that's
simple
fair.
foods, and spend much of their day in prayer. So they usually don't need a ton of money, which made it all the more puzzling that a nun named Mary Margaret Kruper would embezzle from her order to the tune of almost $1 million. Around 835,000 went missing from the diocese, and worse than that, from the Catholic elementary school where she served as principal. And even more shocking was where it went, because this nun had a secret. She loved to go on gambling trips, and almost all of that.
Do you see this? What the heck?
Oh my goodness.
The
Oh,
devil's
and then
on her
look, there,
shoulder. Oh,
there-
and there's
there's
Jesus
a
over
there.
here.
I like how there's a priest right next to her.
Yeah, what?
Like they're just assuming there was
Money
other
disappeared.
clergy there too.
Disappeared into the casinos over a 10-year period. The prosecutor said she stole the equivalent of 14 students' tuition each year, and the
Daggum.
judge showed little mercy.
Yeah, that's
She was
bad.
sentenced to 366 days in federal prison before being released back to her order, who likely weren't very forgiving. Those nuns can gossip, you know. This crime was much
Okay, well,
Gossip is a
They-
sin, buddy.
yeah, gossip. First of all, gossip is a sin. Like you got to recognize that for like most nuns, the kind of sins that they commit, like when they go to confession, when they confess their sins, it's been like there are priests that'll liken it to like popcorn. They will confess like the smallest things. I think like the scandal of gossip is not something that they're gonna be too keen on doing. It's like they're like showing these like terrible cases, and it's like I think it's okay to acknowledge like yes, this woman she did very bad stuff and it was
Right.
bad, but then it's like the assumption is that everyone else is also being bad. Oh, those nuns can gossip, you know. They weren't forgiving of her. It's like, no, they would have been forgiving, I'm certain, if they were being normal nuns, which most nuns are normal nuns. Although, reasonably so, they probably would have kicked her out of the order.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it's like, you can't just like act like they're all bad
I
without
know.
without like anything to support that.
Right. Yeah, it's so stupid.
less dramatic than our next swashbuckling entry. Number 9.
Okay, so sorry. Just overview. This nun embezzled a bunch of money.
de
Yeah, she
Arauso,
did.
or Antonio de Arauso. Born in San Sebastian, Spain in 1585, as Caitlin de Arauso, our wayward nun was the child of a military captain and was given training in combat by him. But at only 4 years of age, things changed dramatically. De Arauso was given over to a convent where her mother's cousin was in control. De Arauso did not take kindly to the new strictures of life and was severely punished for rebelling until
I wonder if they put her in there like unwillingly. Like
I don't know.
she didn't want to go. I don't know. That's weird.
Also notice
After
that
a
all the
beating at
nuns are like evil and scary.
Yeah, like what the heck?
new strictures of
Like,
life and
I'm gonna beat you with this.
was severely punished for rebelling until, after a beating at 15 years old, she pulled off a daring escape and emerged with a new lust for life and
Oh,
a new
goodness.
identity. At some point, Caitlin de Arauso fashioned a new identity and emerged dressed in boys' clothing, going by Antonio de Arauso. Historians are divided on whether this was a
What
guise
the
of
heck?
convenience or them taking on their true identity, but one thing isn't up for debate.
Taking on their
Antonio
true
was
identity.
a scoundrel of the highest order.
Yep. Oh my goodness. That's insane.
De Arauso became infamous for conning and stealing from people and eventually escalated to killings.
Oh,
De
this
Arauso
was the most evil nun who like didn't want to take the monastic vow, escaped and was like purportedly a transgender, and then like went and killed people. And
Yeah,
and killed them.
I mean, it's look,
Such
it's
an evil
unders-
nun.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, not most people aren't made for monastic life, and monastic life is very strict, but it's not strict to like hurt you or be evil or to be cruel. It's
Right.
just like asceticism, like living a simple life. As they said earlier in the video, but seem to have forgotten, most nuns just live a simple life and take on these vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience so as to
Right.
give themselves wholly to God. Not everyone is made for that. I mean, like if I were a kid that was not called to it, I'd probably run away too. But like, I mean, just the way they're portraying it is just making it seem like it's intrinsically evil.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and whenever you say most evil nuns in the history of mankind and present it in this way, like all the nuns are bad or bad to each other or bad to this person, it's like you're almost saying the reason why these nuns are bad is because of, you know, the whole system, right? Because of monastic life or because of the Catholic Church, because of whatever. And so,
Yeah,
you know, I get like obviously forcing people against their will to be a nun or a monk is like not good, and that would actually invalidate the vows that you take.
yeah.
But I wouldn't say that this is like you shouldn't have listed this one. I don't know. Maybe in a different video, like rogue nun kills people or like
But
nun
did
that
this person even take vows?
apparently at the beginning, I'm pretty sure she did.
things changed control. De Arauso was given over to a convent where her mother's
Oh, I
cousin
don't
was
know.
in control. De Arauso did not take kindly to
She
the
was
new
just given over. I don't know. That's so weird. What?
Yeah, I don't know that this person
our
qualifies
next
as-
swashbuckling entry.
I'm gonna look
Number
her up.
9, Catalina.
Catalina de Arasso. Okay, here we go. It's funny. She kind of looks like a dude in that picture. Okay.
That was the goal, I
Um,
guess.
Yeah. Oh, cringe. That's so cringe. In the Wikipedia page, the pronoun that they use for her is he.
Oh no.
That's so cringe.
They're like retroactively applying transgender ideology to people.
That's so cringe. Oh my goodness. Okay. Around the year 1589 at age 4, together with her sisters Isabel and Maria, was taken to the Dominican convent of San Sebastian el Antiguo, where her mother's cousin, let's see. Yeah, lacking religious vocation and as a result feeling imprisoned and refusing to take vows. Okay. So she didn't even take vows, so she wasn't even a nun.
So she wasn't even a nun.
Yeah. She was detained in a cell and constantly fought with a widowed novice. At 15, after being beaten by one of the older nuns, she decided to escape.
Yeah, and beating people is not good. We'll acknowledge
I
that.
don't know if it. No, I'm kidding. If it's Catalina del Arasso, then maybe I don't know. She sounded like a
maybe
horrible
just
human
her.
being. Well, okay, that makes sense. So she wasn't a nun. Number 9 debunked.
She pulled off a daring escape and emerged with Antonio de their true order. Erauso even shot and killed his own uncle over 500 pesos.
Oh yeah, did you hear that?
I did hear that.
His own uncle.
Erauso even
She
shot
do be
and
killing
killed his
people,
own
though.
uncle over 500 pesos while on a jaunt to South America. He proceeded to weave a trail of
Jesus,
carnage
bro.
across the Americas, taking whatever gig he could and escaping death multiple times before eventually passing on, never having been held accountable for his crimes. But not even nuns of the most famous orders are safe. Number 8, the baby thieves of India.
Okay, so fake nun turned supposedly transgender.
Yeah,
Doesn't
fake nun
count.
turned transgender criminal.
Killed a murderer.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Mother Teresa was one of the most famous names in Catholicism, an elderly woman.
Is this Mother Teresa or is this someone else?
India.
The baby
Mother
thieves.
Teresa was one of the most famous
someone else.
names in Catholicism, an elderly woman who dedicated her life to helping out the poor of India. Since then, many controversies have emerged over some of her conduct, but she is still held in high regard by many. The same can't be said about her Nirmalha de home in Ranchi, which offered homes for unmarried pregnant women until it was raided in 2018. And the charges were shocking. A nun and another employee were arrested for child trafficking at the very home they were supposed to be protecting the children. They had reportedly been taking babies from unmarried mothers and selling them to couples who could pay. One couple had paid $1,700 for a child, but instead the home stole their money. The couple reported the theft and the entire operation came crashing
Okay,
down.
sorry, I'm so confused. Okay, so they were like, they said they were trafficking the babies, but then they said that they were selling the babies to couples.
They're
That's called
selling the
adoption.
families that could yeah, that's adoption.
That's adoption.
I mean maybe they're doing it in a bad way, but yeah, I
I
don't
don't
think
know,
that's
like,
trafficking. That's
That's
more
so
like
weird. Were
adoption.
they doing it without the government? Obviously, that's so weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know if they were taking away the children without consent either.
Right. That's so weird.
Down. The bad sister and her accomplice had turned a refuge into a house of predation and cast another pall over its founder's legacy. This nun
I don't know
didn't
that giving
betray her
children
orders.
to a family that can support them is predation. I think that's a little.
The prophets are better than being a prophet. I hope this isn't supposed to be Mother Teresa, because if you've ever read the life of Mother Teresa, that is like the opposite. That's like the opposite of her mentality. So it's freaking insane.
Rather, she took them a little too seriously. Number 7.
Okay, so I'm so interested. What the heck? Okay, did they even say the names of this?
De home in Ranchi was one of the most, but not even nuns of the most famous orders are safe. Number 8. The baby.
Yeah, the baby thief. Sorry, I just have to like the apologist in me. I just have to confirm because that's insane.
That is insane.
Nothing comes up, so I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, because like, we'll probably watch the Mother Teresa video in a little bit, but in
Yeah.
that, they fudge things a little bit too.
Right.
This nun didn't betray her orders. Of Constantinople.
Okay.
We're going back, way back
Oh,
to
it's
the
a
8th
saint.
century.
Wait,
when
was that a
Saint
saint?
Theodosia was born.
It might Saint Theodosia. It might be an Eastern saint, but actually no. Saint Theodosia was like 8th century. I think she was the wife of some like iconoclast, or maybe I'm thinking of some other person. No,
Well,
she was a nun and a
saint
martyr.
making a nun and a martyr. And she's in the list of the most evil nuns.
Yes, must be.
Constantinople. We're going back,
Must be,
way back to the 8th century when Saint Theodosia was born into a world in the middle of the Byzantine iconoclasm. This was an era where Emperor Leo III had turned against the use of religious artifacts and imagery, believing them to be graven images. This was
No, redeem Zoomer
turned
moment.
against
Do you see this?
teen iconoclasm.
Wait,
I
burning a
was an
Bible.
era where Emperor Leo III
Oh,
I
no,
guarantee you, Emperor
that's
Leo
not
III didn't.
iconoclasm. Yeah, no, that's not iconoclasm. That's just like actual
Because like
blasphemy.
Leo III was an iconoclast.
Yeah, but you wouldn't burn a Bible.
Yeah.
I didn't even
Like,
notice
don't
that.
get me wrong. I'm not trying to defend Leo III. I just did a whole video in my catechesis about iconoclasm. Okay, but he wasn't burning the Bible.
I don't think it was burning
had
the
turned
Bible.
against the use of religious artifacts and imagery, believing them to be graven images.
And I actually don't think like he says artifacts.
The Bible is
in
not a
movie.
graven image.
Yeah, he didn't. I can't. I think it was Constantine V was his son, and he was a lot worse than Leo III. Constantine V
Yeah.
actually like disposed of a bunch of like relics, and like first
Oh,
class
no.
relics, and
Oh,
like
no.
persecuted those who venerated icons and stuff. So like Leo III was like a moderate iconoclast in comparison to his son. Anyways, he definitely didn't burn a Bible.
This
Sorry.
was opposed by the Pope at the time, but the Emperor went ahead and destroyed many of them. Destroying art is
Oh.
certainly something to be condemned, but this
Bruh.
one nun believed it was worthy of murder. When an officer came to take down the image of Jesus outside her convent, she violently shook the ladder he was using, and the officer fell off it to his death.
No
From there, the story varies.
way.
Some say she fought viciously, even killing another officer with a rock. She was arrested, brought before the emperor, and was completely unrepentant, believing her murder to have been justified by religious doctrine. And the emperor saw to it that she got
Hold
them-
on.
Hold up.
Did she intend to kill that guy, or did she just intend to get him down from there
Right.
to not take away her
Or
image?
to like stop,
Because,
like don't destroy
like,
the image of
yeah,
our Lord.
don't take
Right.
away my icon. I think that's justified to try to get him down from there. And if the murder was unintentional, then, you know.
Right. I wonder if she actually did. All right, time to look it up. Time to fact check this. Gosh, we're never gonna get through
This is a
videos.
controversial one for the list of most evil nuns. Evil for defending her
I know.
private property.
What the heck? Okay, so on Wikipedia, it says that the officer was taking down the icon of Christ, and a group of women gathered to prevent it, and among them was Theodosia, and she shook the ladder strongly until the officer fell from it, but the man died from his injuries, and then she was arrested, and then she was executed by having a ram's horn hammered through her neck.
So it seems then that she didn't mean for him to die. She was just trying to
I
get
don't
him
know.
to
I
stop.
hope not. But hey, I mean, like, that's kind of like Moses too. So
Yeah,
even
I
if
mean
he
that's kind of
did-
like
even if she intended murder and had murder in her heart, as long as she was repentant, it's like we have like a lot of saints, especially from like the Old Testament, who like have committed
Yeah.
like grave acts.
and
have good commitment.
like there's no way that she wasn't like repentant of like sad that that guy died.
Right.
But they portray it as if she wasn't. But what I'm sure that she wasn't repentant of is defending her icon.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that there's a big
exactly.
difference here between the accidental like death of a person and then her intention of defending her icon. They were probably trying to get her to repent of using icons, and she would have refused.
Right.
Even if she did commit a grave sin by killing the guy with murder in her heart, which isn't confirmed by any means, but they act like it is.
Right.
Then there still is no reason for her to repent of wanting to defend her Catholic theology.
Yeah, I wonder. Oh man, now I have to go. I have a bunch of books on this period, so I'm gonna check up on it in a little bit and see if like she actually intended that. But
a
Yeah.
martyrdom
they
to have been
said I did it to protect our Lord's image,
justified
and so
by
she
religion.
was like, her actions were justified according to this video. But like
Yeah.
again, look how they portray it. They portray it as if it was her alone who went to
Bent.
this
Yeah.
ladder. And was like, I'm gonna kill this dude, sweep this ladder out from under him.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And-
kill this dude.
But it was a whole crowd of women. At least according
Yeah, it was
to
a
the
whole crowd of
infallible
women.
Wikipedia page of Theodosia
Yeah.
of Constantinople. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a crowd of women. They were trying to get her down. Like Infographic show is giving no charitability in this portrayal of her.
Javier, we are defending every one of these evil nuns in the history of mankind. What is this video? We're not kidding. We're not defending them. We didn't defend all of them. We didn't defend that
No.
fake nun transgender woman.
Yeah,
All right.
no, murdering people is bad. Accidentally killing somebody is like unideal. You know, it's like preferably people don't die, but it's like
that's bad too if you're being reckless. But hey,
and it's
I
bad
mean,
too if yeah, but being reckless is bad, and
Yeah.
if she did want him to die, yes, that is very bad.
Yes, for sure. Gosh. Okay. All right. Let's listen to her martyrdom. I guess.
brought before the emperor and was completely unrepentant, believing her murder to have been justified by religious doctrine. And the emperor saw
Oh yeah.
to
By the way, earlier I said she was the wife of an emperor. There's a different Theodosia that I was talking about that came about later, who's the wife of a moderate iconoclast. I forget his name though. So.
it that she got the martyrdom she was unafraid to embrace, ordering her executed by having a ram's horn shoved through her throat.
That's
But she had the
insane.
last laugh.
That is
Opponents
insane.
of iconoclasm eventually made her a saint. These next to nuns also had God on their mind, but they let it drive them to evil. Number 6, the Tanakh Exorcism
Evil.
Wait, hold up. Did you hear what he
of
just said?
iconoclasm eventually made her a saint. These next to nuns also had God on their mind, but they let it drive them to evil.
These next to nuns. Oh, these next nuns. I thought we
Yeah,
were talking
no,
about the
the
people who
next
made
part of
an
the video.
icon of Theodosia, but they let that icon drive them to evil, whoever they were.
Oh,
Number
yeah.
6, the Tanakh Exorcists.
Tanakh Exorcists.
Nuns answer to
Tanakh.
God, but he often has a go-between in the form of a local priest.
Oh,
And if the
I wonder
priest
if they were
cannot be
talking about the
trusted,
Tanakh
things
is
can
in
go
the,
south in a hurry. That
Old
was
Testament?
definitely
is in the
case.
Hebrew Bible. They spelled it kind of weird.
Yeah, that's not how you spell Tanakh. If that's, I think
If that's what it
Tanakh
is.
might be a location.
Might be something else.
But he often has a go-between in the form of a local priest. And if the priest cannot be trusted, well, things can go south in a
I'm gonna
saint.
go back a
These
little bit.
next to nuns also had God on their mind, but they let it drive them to evil. Number 6, the Tanakh Exorcists. Nuns answer to God, but he often has a go-between in the form of a local priest. And if the priest cannot be trusted, well, things can go south in a hurry. That was definitely the case for Father
You
Daniel.
see that mentally exhausting rituals. I wonder if they're
Oh my goodness.
anti-Catholic on this channel. This is nearly impossible
Yeah.
to understand. I love it. What the heck?
Oh my goodness, dude. They're just
Peter
hating.
Gorgia.
Like, what the heck?
A Romanian priest who led a local Orthodox monastery despite a history of radicalism and bizarre behavior. The monks under him left because of his conduct, so he created an order of nuns who were oddly devoted to him. It almost seemed like he was building his own little cult, at least until one of his nuns started acting oddly. Marikica Irina Cornici suffered from mental illness, but the monastery's residents...
I'm believing even more rational things than usual.
Bruh.
Oh
That's
my goodness.
insane.
I wonder what they mean by that. Catholicism is irrational?
I guess. That's so
Maybe.
stupid.
May-
but also they
or
said this was
maybe-
an Orthodox church. This is
Yeah,
an
yeah.
Orthodox nunnery, so that's so
Well,
weird
yeah.
now.
I mean, to be charitable, maybe they meant the irrational things that were less irrational are having a somewhat cult following of a priest, which if that was happening,
Right,
then yeah, that
right.
would be bad. But I don't even know that I can trust their account that that's what was going
Yeah.
on.
I know at this point.
They could-
We're
they
like
could just
5
be
minutes in
hating.
the video and we've been recording this for like 45 minutes, like or no, maybe even an hour because of how bad this is.
including her own brother, blamed something else for her hallucinations and erratic behavior. Demonic behavior.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
Father Coragino talked his nuns into
saw that
performing an
picture?
exorcism
No, wait.
from mental illness, but the monastery's residents, including her own brother, blamed something else for her hallucinations and erratic
Look at
behavior.
that.
Dude. Oh, that's supposed to be a nun. I thought that was supposed to be the devil, but that's like
It's
or
a
maybe
devil
it is
nun.
supposed to be the devil. It's a devil nun. That's insane. Okay, so she's having hallucinations and visions. They didn't tell us what they were, but
Demonic behavior. And
Interesting.
so Father Coragino talked his nuns into performing an exorcism, which
Okay.
they were all too willing to go along with. The nuns bound her arms and legs and chained her to a cross for an anointing ritual.
Okay.
They kept her chained up in the church for several days, even putting a towel in her mouth to keep her from cursing. When she was released, she passed out and died on the way to the hospital. While the bad father was sent to prison for 14 years initially, the 4 nuns who participated all received sentences between 5 and 8 years. For these sinister sisters, justice was a long time coming. Number 5. The
What?
Wait,
So,
why?
I don't even.
What did they even do? What do you mean sinister? I mean, besides like, okay, we're gonna help you with this exorcism ritual that like ended up killing this
It could have
lady.
just been an exorcism gone wrong. I mean, exorcisms are usually pretty intense. I mean, if you have the devil in you,
That's insane.
or it could have been misconduct in that they did an
You
unwanted
should have called a
exorcism.
Catholic priest. Maybe the exorcism would have worked. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But that's
No,
so weird.
their exorcisms are valid though. We would say that they're valid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If it happens, if it happens. But
if it
I
happens.
definitely know, and this might just be because there's more Catholic priests than Orthodox priests, but there's definitely more Catholic exorcisms than Orthodox exorcisms. So that I don't
Mm.
know. I would have to compare like the numbers there. That's so weird. So apparently, I found this website, and apparently, first of all, it's Tanaku, the Tanaku exorcisms, and it was some place,
Mm.
this monastery of Tanaku in Romania. And apparently she was mentally ill, allegedly, but a lot of the residents and her own brother and the nuns and the Orthodox priests thought that she was possessed.
Maybe she was possessed.
So yeah, I mean, if all those people think she's possessed, I don't know. But dude, this happened in 2005.
Whoa, 2005?
Oh no,
Huh.
wait, no. Sorry. It was ruled that she was killed during an exorcism in 2005. Wait, maybe it was. What the heck?
When did this happen?
No, it was. It was in 2005.
Huh.
What the heck? So she became a nun, and after she started becoming a nun, she began giggling during mass, and her mental state deteriorated. And the doctors at the local psychiatric hospital diagnosed her disease as schizophrenia. And after 2 weeks of treatment, they released her to the monastery. And then, what the frick? Sorry, this is
If
weird.
this was 2005, then she would have had medication for her schizophrenia. I think
Right,
it would have been pretty clear that she was schizophrenic, not possessed.
right. And then her brother said that he saw Satan go into her. That's so weird. Interesting. Okay.
I don't know what's like. I don't know if this would qualify as most evil in history. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's in
this is
that
just like
territory.
is this schizophrenia, or is this that she's possessed by Satan?
Which again, it's like if there was misconduct going on here, like that's bad, but it's like this could have just been
Yeah.
like an unfortunate accident or some malpractice which caused
Right.
this. I don't know that I feel like
Right.
it's just giving the vibe that they're fudging it a little bit, making it like coming to some conclusions which might not be warranted.
Right.
I don't know though.
I'm not sure because they kept her in that church. What did they say, for 3 days? Like, did they feed her? Did they give her
Yeah, if they
water?
were if
You
they
know,
if they
like if
weren't
they
feeding
did
her, that
that,
was
then it's like,
definitely that. Yeah, then yeah, I
gosh.
get the prison sentence if they
But
weren't
then
feeding her.
in Wikipedia they said that after those 3 days, they gave her bread and tea, and then she fainted after she ate, and then she died.
Hmm.
But oh my gosh, she was in the ambulance, and while she died, and she was administered 6 doses of adrenaline. What the heck? Wouldn't you overdose?
Can you over?
Can
Is
you
this
OD
6
on
doses of it?
adrenaline? Wait. Can you hold up? Hold up. Overdose? Did she? Okay. The coroner, Dan Georgiou, maintained that the nun's cause of death was due to an overdose of adrenaline given in the ambulance.
So then, wait. So then it wasn't even the priest or the other nuns that killed her.
No.
She died from medical
Like, hey,
from ODing on adrenaline.
going to the hospital because she was in the church for 3 days, like tied up to a cross, and they put a towel in her mouth to make sure she would stop cursing. Okay, but like, you can't say, oh no, like she died because of that, because
Well, no, yeah, no, because they framed it as like, oh yeah, after the 3 days she just died.
yeah.
But no, she died from being OD'd on adrenaline in an ambulance.
Wow. All right, so what the heck? So okay, embezzling nun, and then transgender
Not
fake
even a nun.
and then adoption agency, and then accidentally killing someone and getting murdered for it, and then just some like mentally insane person going to the hospital after an exorcism that was rough, and then she died because of the ambulance giving her too much adrenaline. All right,
Yeah.
man, these nuns are so evil.
Yeah.
But hey,
Yeah.
to be fair, the title is probably still accurate. The most evil nuns in the history of mankind. Notice how these nuns actually like aren't that bad. I mean, like they're bad. Like some of them are
The first one was pretty bad, but
Yeah,
I
that one
think
was
they
bad.
probably maybe they came up with the video and found that person, and then they were like
Right.
kind of struggling afterwards.
But if these are the most evil nuns, then hey, I think we're in a pretty good spot. I don't know. I think we're doing
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I would gladly, visit with these nuns and have a friendship with them. That'd be fine with me, except for the embezzling nun and the fake nun. Only the real
Yeah.
nuns. Only the real nuns. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just like, that's insane. Okay.
The icon nun seemed nice. I'd chill with her.
So all of it, yeah, exactly. Yeah, for real. Like, hey, let's get some more icons going. So all of these, what has it been? Every single one except for maybe the first one where it was kind of like really misleading.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Well, even in the
can't be
first
a
one,
doses.
they were like kind of making the other nuns seem bad too.
Yeah, which is so weird. So all of them have been misleading, or like blatantly wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they say anything about her dying on the way to the hospital because of the adrenaline?
The 4 nuns who participated all received sentences between 5 and 8 years. For these sinister sisters, justice was a long time coming. Number 5,
Nope.
the Sisters of Smilem Park.
Long
do you
time
wanna keep
coming is
going?
kind of insane.
You want to keep going on this?
We can at least skim through it so that the
Yeah.
people don't think that we're, oh no, they only looked at the first 5, which are bad. They didn't look at the last 5.
So, what? Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I have to give my wife a monitor. Okay. Anyways, what did you say? You just want to skim through them?
Yeah, we'll move on to something else.
Cool.
For children abandoned by their parents or left orphaned by an accident, an orphanage are especially vulnerable. So any
Oh my
betrayal of their
goodness.
trust is seen as especially heinous, which is why it was all the more horrifying when a trio of women, including 2 nuns, were arrested for abuses at the Smilem Park Orphanage in Scotland. The abuse happened between 1969 and 1981, and the orphanage had been closed for almost 40 years when the women were arrested. Now aged between 76 and 79 years old, the trio, Sister Sarah McDermott, Sister Eileen Igo, and care worker Margaret Hughes, were accused of
Bruh.
Save Me Satan is insane.
That's so insane, dude.
beating children, covering up abuses by other workers, and in general turning the place into a house of horrors. The judge sentenced the 3 old women to 3 years in prison each, as a deterrent to anyone else who dared to endanger kids. But those were far from the worst crimes committed by nuns against vulnerable children. Number 4.
Okay, so that one was pretty bad.
That
If
was
it's-
pretty bad.
So like the orphanage, they like beat kids in the orphanage.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
The
Well,
shame of Canada. There are
I get there's also like one thing that needs to be mentioned, that it's like it's sort of a recent thing that people don't beat their kids.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's kind of
No,
weird to
you
say,
had
but like
corporal punishment in schools. Like you
yeah,
ever
they would like beat you with a paddle if you were being bad, so that you would
or like
learn.
in class if you weren't paying attention, your hands would get the ruler. I mean, like they like this was like the standard. Corporal punishment was like the standard punishment. Okay. So, I on one hand it's like, okay, I get it, but then on the other hand it's like, okay, how much of this is just because they were using outdated methods of punishment, and how much of this is like, oh, they're actually like maliciously beating and like abusing kids?
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I mean, that kind of seemed, but again, like you never know with infographics, as the last 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes have proved. So
are few darker stains on Canada's history than the infamous residential
Canada.
schools, where First Nations children were taken away from their
Shout out
parents and
Diego.
placed in strict, cruel, and often abusive boarding schools. These were designed to scrub them of their traditions and release them as what the government deemed proper Canadian citizens. In recent years,
okay, so the government forced kids to be like re-educated, and then they gave them to these nuns.
Yeah.
That sounds like a government thing.
more light has been shed on how these schools operate, but in the early 2000s, a lawsuit was filed that blew the doors open. The institutions in question were St. Anne's in Fort Albany, Bishop Below School in Moosonee, as well as a Sudbury detention facility. Few of the named culprits were charged because many had passed on, but that didn't protect Francois Segun, who was charged at 97 years old in 2023. She was charged with gross indecency, a crime that was actually repealed in 1987, and grim details were unfurled of her abuse. She could face up to 5 years in prison, but much like many war criminals deported to Germany, the odds are she'll be facing another justice sooner. But some nuns would go even further to conceal their crimes. Number 3.
Wait, what?
That was so vague. What?
That was really vague.
Blew the doors open.
So
The institutions in question were St. Anne's in Fort Albany, Sudbury charged because many had passed.
okay, what did she even do? Like, I'm just not sure. Like, she went to
And
court.
did they say that the case was dropped?
Oh, apparently she was. Yeah. So apparently she was charged with sexual assault
Okay, that's
at
bad.
the day schools. But yeah, she said that, or the video said that it like didn't go through or something. That's so weird.
On, but that didn't protect Francois Segun, who was charged
So
at
is it-
97 years old in 20.
So if the charges were dropped,
Then that means it's just like some alleged thing, which
yeah,
it could have definitely happened. But
yeah.
that's-
it
okay, yeah,
could have
the
happened.
charges are unproven. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
I mean, but they're treating it as though she was guilty, even though it says what you're reading says that the charges were unproven.
Yeah, that's so weird.
2023.
That is weird.
She was charged with gross indecency, a crime that was actually repealed in 1987. And
They
grim
probably didn't
details
want to
were
say sexual assault. They were probably
Yeah.
too scared to say it in their video.
Yeah. That's
I'm
so
not.
weird, dude. I don't. Yeah. And apparently, this happened during like the 1960s. And so she started getting charged like decades later because she might have been
Mhm.
associated with things that were actually happening. And so whether she did it or not, obviously there was something going on at the
Yeah.
day school.
Yeah.
So that's like obviously bad. Guess what? If you commit those sins and you don't repent, then you're not going to heaven. So
Yeah.
unfurled up further to conceal their crimes. Number 3. The Salacious Sisters. It was one of the most infamous
Salacious.
crimes in India's history. A nun
Salacious
murdered
sisters.
in the middle of the convent. Sister Abhaya's body was found in a well
What?
in southern India, not far from the convent she called home, and there was plenty of evidence of foul play. Her veil had been snagged on the door, and an axe was found on the grounds. But despite all the evidence, no one was charged for almost 30 years. Then in 2021, 2 arrests were made, and the details sent shockwaves throughout the church all over the world, because the culprits were a priest and a nun. It turned
Bruh.
out
Oh,
that the
no.
unfortunate Sister
Bruh.
Abaya had walked in on the respected father and one of the brides of God engaging in very ungodly actions, something that is
That's
naturally
insane.
highly frowned upon in Catholicism. Facing
You
the
think?
prospect of being defrocked and
right.
excommunicated, Father Thomas Couture and convent head Sister Sephi murdered her and tried to conceal her body. Prosecutors pursued both of them and eventually got a sentence of life in prison for the unholy duo, putting an end to
Okay, so that one is uncontroversially bad. Like
Yeah,
that's like
that's
black
bad.
and white bad. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing there. Yeah, that's insane.
That's horrible.
Miriam Solakiotis, the Mother Rasputin. Looks like another Orthodox nun.
Mother Rasputin. During the early 20th century, the Greek Orthodox Church
Yeah.
was in flux, with several radical groups rejecting the church's recent reforms. One of these schismatics was Archbishop
Schismatic.
Matthew Karpathikis, and he had some devoted followers, but none more devoted than Miriam Solakiotis, an Orthodox nun who had been a member of the order for more than 20 years before she joined Karpathikis over at the Old Calendarist movement, which rejected the adoption of a new calendar. They founded a new breakaway monastery considered to be invalid by most of the church, but that was just the start of the chaos she would soon cause. Solakiotis had a unique method for maintaining her new monastery's finances. She would target wealthy women, get them to convert, and once they joined the monastery, she would torture them until they signed over their fortune. Then they would either have nowhere else to go, or she would just dispose of them. It's believed she did this hundreds of times, and 27 deaths are directly tied to her.
Dude.
Although it's believed that up to 177 people died due to mistreatment at her monastery, she was ultimately tried for some minor crimes, which led to exposure of her massive crimes, and dozens of people, including 36 children, were freed from captivity.
Dadgum.
Prosecutors were still attempting to piece together the mad nun's crimes when she pulled off one more escape from justice. She died in prison in 1954, with several trials still ahead of her. But our final entry had too many guilty
So schismatic nun. Oop, that's weird. Oh, I just turned up my microphone. A nun that schismed from the Eastern Orthodox Church, which is a schism from the Catholic Church. Basically part 2 of the first one, but worse
Yeah.
thing. Okay, this is apparently the
Okay.
worst one. They are getting worse as we go. So
Yes.
parties to count or prosecute. Number 1. The Magdalene Sisters. In Ireland, in the 18th century, few things would bring more shame to a family than an unwed mother. Fortunately, the church was ready to help, offering these fallen women a place to live away from their families until they gave birth. Known as the Magdalene Asylums, they also housed plenty of sex workers who were seeking refuge or orphans who had no safe haven. Run primarily by nuns, they were presented by the church as benevolent institutions designed to protect these women. It was all a
Presented by
lie.
the church.
These asylums were largely run as laundries where the unfortunate women who wound up there were forced to do extensive unpaid labor. The system grew with dozens of established around Ireland, and many women who were checked in there temporarily soon found it to be impossible to leave. In many cases, the children were taken away from them and adopted out. The treatment of the women and the girls became increasingly abusive, and it's believed that up to 30,000 women were held in these institutions. And when the truth came out, it became a scandal around the world. In 1993, the grounds of one of the laundries was sold, and the new developers found a mass grave of 133 women on it. The stories of women who survived and in many cases were seeking out their children decades later became publicized, but the system had lasted close to 200 years, meaning the countless sisters who ran these institutions had long ago passed from this world and could no longer face justice. Well, a certain kind of justice.
daggum. Okay,
Well,
so
that's bad, but I don't know. They're presenting it as though it's the entire system.
yeah, that's sus because for 200 years with approbation from the church, there's got to be a lot more to that story because okay, there might have been certain instances where women weren't allowed to leave and they were forced to do labor and stuff. But I can also see a presentation of the information to be, oh, look, you're not wed, so you don't have a husband, so you don't have a place to raise your kid, so you don't have a way to provide for yourself. Stay with us at this monastery, and you have to do these works like laundry and all that stuff to stay here and earn your keep. And we'll give your child up for adoption. Like all of that seems like a deal that someone who is not wed, who has a child out of wedlock, might take in certain
Yeah,
circumstances,
and I don't think that's a bad deal
societal
to
and
make.
cultural.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it looks like there was abuses that happened within that system, but they're presented as though the system in of itself is bad.
yeah.
And
Or like
I don't know that it necessarily was. And they say 151 graves, but how many were those of people that just like died
live
in
the rest of
child
their life
labor?
there. Yeah, because I can see like a repentant, like they said some of them were prostitutes or a lot of them were prostitutes. Maybe they needed help taking care of the child, and maybe while they were at the nunnery they converted to Catholicism, and then they made perpetual vows, and so then they might have died there and lived the rest of
Or I
their life
mean,
by dying
they
there.
might have died in childbirth or
Yeah,
something, because they say that there's graves, and the implication is that they were murdered. But like,
yeah,
I don't. They didn't
that's
really
so
present
weird.
anything to demonstrate that.
And like
And then this is just
all
all
these different
our
places too.
suspicion.
Yeah, yeah,
I hear this, and it's like, um, I don't know. It's just kind of suspicious. Like, I don't really
right.
know that I would trust them on that. I
I
mean, yeah,
know.
I'm sure there was abuses that happened, and it would have been bad,
It might be the
certainly.
case that they they saw or read something about one of these places being like this, and then they imputed that guilt to the entire system, like you were saying, like all of them throughout all of the country or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's just
and
weird.
like 30,000 women being abused. I don't know. I don't think the church would let them
Yeah,
get away with that.
no,
So
definitely not.
this one, that one is really suspicious. So I would
Yeah,
look
what is
into
it
that.
called?
Women
What do
who
they
wound
call
up
this?
there were prevalent
Yeah, what
safe
is this place
asylum in
called?
an unwed Irish land in the
The
18th century.
Magdalene sisters. Oh, they made a movie about it. Oh, that's a. Oh yeah, the Magdalene asylums. Homes for women who are labeled as fallen by their families or society. Yeah, so interesting. That's so weird. Yeah, so this is from the 1800s to the late 20th centuries. And so I have a really hard time believing that the church allowed for such widespread abuse. It seemed like it's like widespread and public abuse of women, and like I don't know, that's just so weird. I'll have to like read more of them. The Magdalene laundries in Ireland. That's weird. Anyways, that was
Yeah,
interesting.
and I mean, it could have been widespread too, which again, that isn't that's not something that we would entertain
Yeah,
as
for sure.
Catholics as being a good thing.
So, what are your overall impressions of this video? I mean, are these really the most evil nuns in the history of mankind?
I mean, I think some of them probably are some of the most evil nuns in the history of mankind, but I think that there being evil nuns in history, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because people are sinful and they do sinful
Yeah,
things.
for
Even
sure.
people who try to devote their lives to Christ, sometimes it fails. But I think that there's also a lot of like poor representation that goes on in this video,
Mm.
and like sort of half truths. On that last one, we don't know for sure,
Yeah.
but we had discovered, like for instance, that one nun had died in the ambulance, and that with the lady who who was martyred, they presented as though she was just completely malicious.
Yeah.
Um, and just like through some of the comments that they put in the video, it shows like an anti-Catholic bias.
Yeah.
So it just seems like they're really just trying to like bait off of these bad stuff and represented as though that's just how Catholicism is.
Yeah.
I mean, every now and then they made a comment of like, "Oh, this is usually not allowed in Catholic Church," but then
Right.
it's like, then you go on to say, "Oh, but nuns gossip. They sure can gossip,"
Yeah. Right.
stuff like that, or they like to beat people. All nuns do, like
Exactly. Yeah, and really, obviously the presentation of the information, there's a few times where like, okay, that's obviously anti-Catholic, or like the little graphics on there, they're kind of like, I don't know, they're trying to like score a few subtle points, like, oh, just like useless rituals that I can't even understand. Like that's obviously not the case. But then it's like just the presentation of this video itself reveals and appeals to people with anti-Catholic bias. So even if like the information is like 90% true, which I would probably dispute, like obviously there's a lot of things that we kind of exposed from like a single Google search on all of these that were like really like so but the fact that they're presenting this information in the way that they are, with a thumbnail, with a title, and with the way that they're presenting the information, they're looking for people who already don't like the Catholic Church, and they're wanting to, I don't know, appeal to them and their emotions and their intuitions about the Catholic Church and enhance them so that their perspective of Catholicism and the things that are related to Catholicism, just like their opinion of it just becomes so much more lowered. So yeah, that does not give me a whole lot of hope for all these other videos. But daggum, that took a lot longer to go through one video than, than I had originally
yeah,
expected. Oh my goodness.
that took a little.
We're like, we're gonna go through all of their videos. Look, they're only 10 minutes, but like every 20 seconds, it's like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. That's like so horrible.
Yeah.
That's so funny. My
That
gosh.
was kind of a lot.
It
Yeah,
is.
well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. I look forward to working with you and again in the future. So
Yes,
everyone,
dude.
please check out Braden's channel, The Catechumen, growing a lot, doing a lot of good work, doing God's work. So and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd greatly appreciate that. But yeah, thank you for watching.
Yeah, peace.